Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Thursday, July 20, 2023, 3:15 p.m. Eastern. We'll be having a reverse aging house call tomorrow night around 9 p.m. Eastern with guest Michael Thomas. In order for all of us, at least from the perspective on this planet, on the surface, to evolve, is to be able to make the choice to go within. Otherwise, we will stay in kind of a repetitive process of lifetime after lifetime trying to figure out who and what we are. This is the reason why most of us, just about all of us, throughout existence, since these bodies were created, one of the reasons we keep reincarnating is because we don't know who and what we are. So we reincarnate, we'll go into a body, we all know that. When we go into the body, we have memory. When the baby is born, there is memory. Some have more than others, memory. And recall things. And to them, it's like they just, and it's interesting because the element of time, compared to the physical material world, is a lot different outside of the etheric astral plane. Yeah, it's not the same. A few days could go by there, which is years here. So a lot of the times when we come back into physical form, to us it seems like we were just there, right? So we look in the body. We don't know, when we wake up, we look, and some of us will kind of be disappointed that we're in another body. Others will be elated. If you look at babies and how do you know this? Well, when you go to maternity wards, and they have the babies there, and you look at the babies, and you watch their expressions, some of them are just like cooing. They just seem to be elated. Others are crying at the top of their lungs. There's reasons for that. Some are happy, some aren't, that they're in a body, because the residual from the past life, we carry that with us. But eventually, the memory goes. We don't remember. You could ask a 5-year-old, in most cases, do they remember who they were before they were in that body? Right? Like, another life. And the majority of the time they'll say yes. And they'll try to be in their present moment, and they're kind of doing things, and you're talking with them, and they say, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I was this or with this, and this is what happened, and this is how I died. And I know that because I've talked to a lot of children through the years. Most have the same response. Now, you come back and ask them again in a couple of years, they don't remember a thing. Totally blank stare. So what it means for us is that we keep incarnating to find out who and what we are, and to enjoy this life. And then some of that sounds kind of strange. So enjoy what life? This life is the way it is. You're born, you live, you die. We have so many opportunities and choices. What would happen? Let's take a guess, I guess. Let's say that all your memories from your past lives were available right in this very now moment, and you could just tap into them. You just go in and, it's like you have your own private library and you're just kind of sauntering along and you pick up the master book and you start looking at it and you say, oh, this is the life I had before this life. You can look at all the things you did. What was the body, what the name and occupation, and how long did you live, and how long did that body last? I wonder how many of us would incarnate. Now, when you have the memory of all those past lives, because we all do, we just haven't been able to access them at will. You can access them, but a lot of people aren't ready for it. They're emotionally freak them out. But you can access it. Any of us can. Now, some people are bold and say, well, I don't have fear of that, so I'd like to access it. You say, okay, so you access it in the now. Now, we have choice as gods, but you remember all your past lives. Would you come back into a physical body? Now, remembering all your past lives doesn't necessarily know who and what you are. That's the key. That's the primer for all of us. Discovering who and what we are. And I don't mean superficially. I don't mean by just saying it to people. Oh, I know I'm the God within the body. It's much deeper, way, way, way deeper than that. Because what you're doing is you're leaving the ego mind alone, and you're practicing the moment. Period. That's all you're doing. You're practicing the moment, and you're doing that, and you're using your guide, which is your breath. And you begin to discover more and more things. It's not so much instantaneous. It takes process. It takes you to process when you go within all the avenues that you've accumulated and boxed and packed away, both your good and bad side. And these are the things that you open up, that you communicate, and that are dispelled. Then you move deeper. Once you've forgiven yourself and you begin a really deep, intimate relationship with yourself, then you move in deeper. And you start to sense that you're getting very near to the God that you are. And so you go deeper. And then you come across the soul. But you sense that there's something in the soul. There's something more there than the soul. So you then discover that there is a doorway from the soul to the God that you are within the soul. This is how deep we go. Now, once you discover that, it's not necessarily do you stay there because of our habits of the programming that we have received, but eventually we end up staying there. And all of our fears, worries, stresses, anxieties, yesterday and tomorrows vanish. And that's when we use the ego mind as our servant, as a tool, a vehicle. So we direct the mind in telling it that it has no limitations. We direct the mind and we fill it full of love, compassion, generosity, and humbleness. And so the mind becomes relaxed. And it starts to follow your direction rather than all this time we've been following its direction. Now, when we come into this awareness, everything in your life will change completely. How you view things, right? Not judge. Judgment won't be there. What your perspective is, what you want to do, how you want to do it. All of these things come into being. You realize that and you know you're in the body, and so you realize that in the body, you're a massive master manifester. And then you start recognizing the fact that you can materialize things, bring them into fruition, manifest them, taking energy, moving it into form, creating it into the reality, and experiencing it. That's what manifesting is. And we were surrounded by energy. Everything, we're energy. Everything's energy. So it shouldn't be difficult at all when you think that what we do is we move the energy into form with our intent, with our desire. And the universe takes it, creates it. We don't have a manual, per se, on how to do all this. I know that. But to some people it becomes very confusing. If you walked up to somebody who would be compromised from the standpoint of in a different state, okay? These are the bicamerals on the planet, in a different state. They wouldn't, there's no way they would gravitate to that. They wouldn't know how, and nor would they be motivated to do it. But we come here, we enjoy our lives, and then we leave. But during the time we're here, we make the most of it. We make the most of it. We enjoy it. We embrace it. We're not in a pessimistic, cynical field of frequency. We're in the opposite end. Enlightenment, lightness, deep eternal love, gratitude, kindness, joy, happiness, bliss is all housed within these bodies through the God that we are. 24/7. We call on it anytime we choose. Isn't it interesting that we choose, most of us, and it is due to our programming, so it isn't, we're not really blaming at all. It's just, that's the process. So in our programming, we develop a shelter. And the shelter protects us and houses us and keeps us out of the elements. And nobody can come into the shelter unless you open your heart. Once you open your heart, the shelter dissolves. You don't need the shelter anymore. Wherever you go, you're sheltered. And wherever you go, you're protected. See, in the programming process of this civilization, we believe, and we're short-sighted. We're tunnel-visioned. You know, it's like horse blinders. You know, your horse only looks straight ahead, so it's not distracted while the horse is carrying, pulling the carriage or anything, so it won't get upset. So imagine if you had horse blinders on, and all you could see was ahead of you. Couldn't see anything to the right or the left, no peripheral vision, and all you could see was straight ahead. And ahead of you was completely pitch black. You you could not see the hand in front of your face. But you know that inherently with the God within you, that it's okay to walk forward. Now, you don't know if the floor will end and you'll fall deeper into some darkness. You don't know. You have no idea. You don't even know if there are walls or a ceiling or a door. So you begin to walk forward. Why? Because you have faith, confidence, and trust in yourself. And one of the biggest things is you realize that you're not the body. That you're a supreme immortal being in that body. You're heaven, you're God, you're pure consciousness. It never dies. So if you understand that you walk off a cliff, the body is eliminated, but you continue. You're never harmed. You're never violated unless you allow it. So we all start out in this dark space. We do. We start out in the dark space. We have no idea what's ahead of us. And we design it that way. And we don't care to be knowing of everything, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, know everything on our lives. Half the fun of it. Half the fun of it is experiencing it. Now, I've had some people say, well, that'd be great, though, if you knew ahead of time. Yeah, but if you knew ahead of time, you imagine how boring that would get and how redundant. Yeah, it'd be fun at first, but it wouldn't last long. So every one of us, create our lives. And we create our lives based upon the programming we receive. All of us have received this program. Other people's thoughts. And it's not like, oh, it's their fault. No, we forgive all them. They didn't know. You had your parents, you had their parents, and their parents, and their parents, and their parents. And everyone passed down certain things. Programming. You, as an empty vessel, as a child, absorbed it all. And your subconscious mind, your super recorder, recorded it all. Every bit of it. And randomly plays it back to you. You ever been, and like, that you've done something and you're doing it again, but you didn't know that you had done it until you start doing it again, and you get this awareness, and you say, I've done this before. And you have. And the reason you've done it before is because you've experienced other people's thoughts. So it connects with, you're doing something and you get this feeling that you've done it before. And you've done it through programming, because we're all connected. Now, the word deja vu means that in past lives, you have done certain things. And you come across something or a place, right? And you start getting this familiarity. At first it's light, and you just kind of blow it off. But then it keeps growing. Enough so that you start paying attention to it and go, why I have this strange feeling that I've been here before and I've done this before. See, that's deja vu. That's from past life experience, not programming when you come into the baby body. on this planet, and everybody around you begins to program you, and they don't know that. I mean, your parents tell you certain things, right? Whoever your parents are, foster parents, no parents, stand-ins, whatever. But you learn through their recommendations. So a lot of things we've been programmed with are untruths that they didn't know that. It's what they believe. So we carry a lot of stuff. And you know, our main information highway in our bodies, these bodies run, the number one communication through everything inside the body is your blood. And it's unique to you. And it's filled with information. I mean, it would boggle your mind to know how many terabits of information are housed within your blood. And they carry this information, the blood carries the information to all parts of the body, obviously. Delivering, it's like a 24/7 mail delivery service. Packages, mail, that are constantly delivering information. Heart talks to the spleen, spleen talks to the liver, liver talks to the kidneys, kidneys talks to the heart, and it's communication. What would happen if we didn't have blood? The body would not exist. The body needs the blood. And the blood also carries oxygen and other nutrients throughout the body, and it delivers it door to door, so to speak, to our bodies. It is definitely an information highway for each one of us. It carries memories, thoughts, all kinds of stuff. Now, this is all part of I guess you could call it the breakaway. The breakaway is when we discover that we're not the body, deeply, intimately so. We also discovered that we then begin to start taking better care of our body because we're in such deep gratitude that we actually have a body to experience physical life with. We take it for granted. You're in a body and you just take it for granted until, guess what? Some things start happening. And even then, it's more of a fear because you don't know the out there. It's the unknown. And you don't know. And so you pick up fear through the ego mind. You experience fear through the ego mind because you're leaving the body. It no longer serves you because it cannot. It's damaged. And since you don't know how to regenerate it, and you really don't know who and what you are, that's what you're left with. Fear of the unknown. What's going to happen after I leave the body? The same thing that always happens. You continue. And you continue to continue. And it doesn't end. So doesn't it make sense that when we come here, we're misinformed, okay, by society, which is the human psyche. And so we live these lives based upon what we're told to do. Have you ever noticed how many people are not really happy with their lives because they don't know who and what they are? So they go into depressive states, anger states, not real positive. And, I've asked people this. If you could leave the body right now, would you? Good question to ask. In all sincerity, if you could leave your body, would you, in this very moment, would you leave your body? Now, not knowing, really, what happens when you leave the body? Well, when you leave the body, you're kind of disoriented at first because number one, you don't know who and what you are, and you're still attached to the physical plane. So the physical plane is your body, the body that you have left. So there's an adjustment period. That's why we talk about the fact that the body, because what they do with the body is what? They stuff it. They drain it and stuff it. So it's empty. It's really, seriously, no blood in it, no nothing. And so it starts to decompose immediately after all that's done, slowly at first. Now, when you and then you burn it, at least 72 hours after after that soul has left the body, the God has left the body, so that it doesn't become attached to it. Why do you think we have so many? They call them poltergeists, they call them ghosts. They're actually spirits trapped in the physical world, but they're actually in the etheric. They're in between etheric astral plane because of the fact that they are attached to the body. The body was left too long intact. So what does that mean? Well, there's a lot of them buried in the ground, aren't there? This is what creates this field of ghosts, called ghosts, apparitions. They're basically spirits, souls, gods, trapped. And they don't know how to get out. They don't know the way out. So this is where you see hauntings, and you'll see different things happening, strange things, appearances, vapors. I remember as a boy, I was spending the night at a friend's house in England. And he talked about a ghost in this old English house. It had a thatched roof. It was a real old house. But it's nice. So I was sleeping in the guest room, so I remember waking up because something kept, you know how someone will move you? Not real ruggedly, but touch you, move you to wake you up. That's what I kept feeling. And you know how you kind of think it's a dream? Because whatever it is it's like somebody's trying to wake you up. So I wake up, open my eyes, and there was a dresser, old dresser, sitting. There were two beds in there. It was sitting between the two beds. And at the dresser, you have your comb, your brush and everything, and you have, because of no plumbing in this old of a house, and they didn't put it in because they liked the idea. So there was a wash bowl, china made out of, and a pitcher with the water in it. So you pour the water into the bowl, and you wash your face and everything. So that was standing there. Now, at the mirror, standing there, was a ghost. It looked like Abraham Lincoln, but it really wasn't. It was a guy that wore a hat like Lincoln. Remember that tall stovetop hat? More people wore those, not just Lincoln. And so he had one of those on. He had a suit on, so to speak, and he was combing his hair, brushing his hair. And he turned and looked at me, and he smiled, and then he just disappeared. So it was a glow, that there was light there, so it wasn't like he was flesh and blood like you and I, but had the image. And it was the man who owned that house and lived there, and he communicated to me that he was trapped there. He didn't know how to get out. He thought he was alive. He really did. He thought he was alive. He thought that the residual of the physical form, he thought he was alive, and he thought the people in there were ghosts, so he thought the opposite. He may have made movies about this, but he actually did. And so he was very frustrated because he didn't know the doorway. He couldn't find the doorway. So I helped him find the doorway, and he was able to leave, which he was elated about, because he'd been there a couple 100 years. So there's all kinds of things that we leave behind. All kinds of things. And we don't know it. It's essence. So you want to make sure that anybody, that they're cremated within 72 hours. Because the body is no more. Why throw it in the ground and eliminate it? And there's been, for thousands of years, that's how they eliminated the bodies. Now we have so many different abilities that you can't keep up with them. Some of us discover some, and you know that works, and then we don't discover others, and we wonder why others have those abilities, and then we believe that we don't, but we do. None of us, as the gods that we are, through the bodies, have any limitations. And this is becoming, it will become more and more apparent, because I will tell you that the veils, we talked about the veils disappearing, getting thinner and thinner and thinner. This is what separates us from the astral plane, from the non-physical to the physical, from the meta-physical, beyond physical, back to the physical. So those will be no more. So they'll get less and less. Doesn't it make sense that we should be able to communicate with every soul, every god, no matter if they're in body or not? Doesn't it? So something is wacky there. I'd say some kind of tempering. But eventually, as we come into our own and our, discover our own God within the body, all these things are going to open up. I'm super excited. And so when a God knows who and what it is, does it still incarnate? Yeah, it'll incarnate into a physical form because it wants to experience it. We experience constantly. We create the experience and we experience it. We create constantly. It's what we do. We do it 24/7. So therefore, anything that we put our intention on, we're moving energy into form. We're creating it into reality, and we're experiencing it. This is what we do 24/7, even while sleeping. And we don't tire of it. It isn't tiresome for us. And then we start to learn to focus on what we want and get out of the focusing on what we don't want. And as we do that, there's a whole different experience, a whole different world that opens up. Now, if you could have, right, if you could have whatever you wanted, what would it be? These are questions you should ask yourself. Write them down. Write your answer down. If you could have anything you want right in this very moment, right in this now, what would it be? One thing. One thing. And another question you should ask yourself is, am I happy right in this now moment? Am I happy right in this now moment? These are honest questions. There's no reason for us to be dishonest with ourselves. That's kind of crazy. But some people will say, well, I never thought about that. Oh, yes, you have. You just don't remember. And the affirmation, I am happy 24/7. There's different levels of happiness. Sometimes the happiness is real slow and lower, and then they call that depression. You know, we got all these labels for all this stuff. Sin actually means missing the target. There's no such thing as sin. But yet we were programmed very deeply that there is sin. All there is karma, karmic debt. This is something that each of us have with ourselves. A friend of mine was floating out in space. This is the vision before he came into physical form. And he was saying that he was given an opportunity to make a choice right there in that moment. You can go over here, you can work on your karma. Or you can go over here and help them, which is also karma. And who were them? The planet Earth, the people of planet Earth. So he was, and who was it that gave him the choice? The One, which he is part of. So the One speaks with all of us. In other words, we all combined collectively make up the One. So he decided to come incarnate in physical form and help the people of planet Earth, which he's doing right now. So the only thing that we really, when you have to fulfill something, or you don't have to, but you eventually will fulfill something, okay? And you begin to understand that I've done all these things throughout my existence, and I want to clean the slate, so to speak. Now, you obviously would not want it. Some rare occasions we've come in one lifetime and cleared the slates in one lifetime. That's really huge. Most of us will a little bit here, a little bit there. So if you cause a lot of pain and suffering, eventually that karmic debt must be tended to. And that's something you're not going to ever escape as a God. You will incarnate in physical form to clear that out. In the quiet time of this meditation, and you focus on your breath, and you go into the now, and you're completely still in a comfortable position, ask yourself these questions. Just send them out. Send the questions out. And then listen. You may get an answer, you may not. You may not get it for a few days, who knows? But you'll get an answer. And this is about anything. Do you know why it disturbs so much of us while we're in physical form? Any sorrow, pain, death, destruction, dishonesty, because it bothers us, all of us, in different levels, different ways. But why is that? Why does it bother us? Because we experience it, maybe not on the level that the actual One, who is front and center with it, but we all experience it. The planetary population of this planet is out of whack. We're all out of whack. We're all connected. Doesn't that make sense? Now, what would happen in a school of birds, flock, let's say? And there seems to be a point in the flock as you watch it, as it changes shape, right? And there is a communication between each bird. Now, as it comes to a point, and at the point there's one bird a little bit further ahead than any of the other ones. And they all follow that bird as they all move together because they're all one. What would happen if the key bird all of a sudden fell from the sky? Would it disrupt the flock? For a little bit, little confusion, but it would recover and go right back to that shape and form. We're all like these power conduits of deep eternal love. And unity is our natural state of being. Disharmony isn't. Chaos isn't. Unity is our natural state of being. In other words, being together, moving together, working on things together is huge. But can you imagine all the different programming of all of us since these bodies have existed, which is many, many, many millennia? Look at the diversification. Do any of us see eye to eye? Is there always just a tad of a difference? When someone says we're all on the same page, right? That's kind of like we know that we are one. So groups of us are on the same page. And that's why we reach out to other people that understand us. And so that communication has been completed. And that's when you would like to have those people around all the time, because it's very difficult for those of us who are aware to carry on conversations with people that are totally the opposite of aware. So those are parts of ourselves, the gods that we are, that just haven't turned the corner yet. And it may be a lifetime, 2 lifetimes, 3 lifetimes, who knows? But through every cycle of civilization, every now and then there is a cycle that they go through where some ascend. Now, in other instances where planetary-wide population is all on the same page, they all ascend together. But with this civilization, some will ascend. Some will continue to stay in high frequency. Others won't. And this is why we talk about being attached. You can love, right? You can love someone. But don't be attached to that someone. This is where we get things get out of kilter. So and I know that's it's an interesting statement to make, that we don't be attached. Love to your heart's content, but don't be attached. When you become attached, that's ego mind, and then the suffering begins. And what does attachment breed? Fear of loss, right? Which is all an illusion. So it controls us. How many of us on this planet worrying about others leaving the body? Or this planet, as they describe it, death. Themselves and others. What am I going to do without you? How am I going to live? That's attachment. Say. So we can love, enjoy life, we do, and much more than, way more than we do now. And loving ourselves is absolutely the key to enjoying that life. Deeply, eternally loving ourselves. And I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about spiritual love, astral love, which is universal. I'll join you in the meditation and return to close us out. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose, and an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still. Your problems do not exist. All problems are inventions of the mind, from circumstances the ego deemed undesirable. In reality, there are only opportunities for soul growth. These problems are simply superhighways to transport you to higher consciousness, just cruising along in divine perfection. Take this with you for the rest of the day into the evening and night, following morning. We will return here Friday, July 21, 2023, 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call, and around 9 p.m. Eastern to continue our reverse aging health call with special guest Michael Thomas. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, deepest of the deepest, deepest eternal gratitude at all times, no matter what's going on around you. And move into the now. Focus on the breath. Listen to the breath. You're in the now. And the now is all we really ever have anyway.